If you handed a cold beer or a spicy jalapeno popper to a wild deer or a squirrel, they'd look at you like you're crazy, sniff it, and run away. To almost every animal on Earth, alcohol is literally poison, and spices are a chemical defense mechanism meant to say, hey, don't eat me, I taste terrible. Yet, humans spent billions of dollars every year on things that burn our tongues and make our heads spin. How did we get here? Well, grab your time machine, because to understand our favorite weekend habits, we have to go back to a time before bars, before supermarkets, and honestly, before humans even knew how to wear pants. This is the story of how our caveman ancestors accidentally stumbled into booze and spices, and how those happy accidents basically rewrote human history. Let's start with the ultimate accidental discovery, alcohol. Long before humans figured out how to build breweries or distill fancy vodka, nature was already running its own little underground bar. Millions of years ago, our very distant ancestors weren't even walking on two legs yet. They were primates living up in the trees, spending their days looking for fresh fruit. But here's the thing about nature. It doesn't have an expiration date stamped on it, and things go bad fast. When fruit falls from a tree and lands on the hot, damp jungle floor, microscopic organisms called yeast show up to the party. These tiny yeasts eat the sugars inside the fruit and poop out ethanol, which is the exact same chemical found in today's alcoholic drinks. This process is called fermentation. Now, to a normal animal, a pile of mushy, brown, smelly fruit on the ground looks like a biohazard. It smells weird, it looks gross, and if you eat too much of it, you get dizzy and lose your balance, which is a great way to get eaten by a saber-toothed cat. But our ancestors were starving, food was scarce, and competition was fierce. If you were a picky eater in the Stone Age, you basically signed your own death warrant. So, one day, a brave, hungry hominid looked at a pile of rotten, fermenting figs and thought, you know what? I'm risking it all. And that brings us to what scientists call the drunken monkey hypothesis. When those early ancestors ate the fermented fruit, something crazy happened. First of all, they realized that rotten fruit actually had way more calories and energy than regular fruit, because the yeast had already done half the digesting work. Second, they got a massive hit of dopamine. Suddenly, the harsh, terrifying jungle didn't feel so scary. They felt relaxed. They felt happy. They got a buzz. But wait, if alcohol is toxic, shouldn't these drunken primates have just passed out and died? Normally, yes. But humans possess a genetic superpower. Around 10 million years ago, a massive evolutionary mutation happened in our ancestors. We developed a special enzyme called ADH4. This enzyme acts like a superpowered bouncer in your liver, breaking down ethanol 40 times faster than other primates. While a chimpanzee gets completely wasted and incapacitated from eating a few rotten berries, a human ancestor could eat a whole buffet of fermented fruit, absorb the extra calories, get a nice little mood boost, and still be sober enough to climb a tree if a predator showed up. This was a massive evolutionary cheat code. The hominids who could eat the spoiled fruit survived the famine, while the ones who avoided it went hungry. Basically, our love for a good drink is hardwired into our DNA because it literally kept us from starving. Fast forward a few million years. Humans have finally figured out how to walk upright, use tools, and control fire. But we still hadn't lost our taste for that sweet, fermented kick. The problem was, relying on rotten fruit found on the ground was a total gamble. Sometimes you found a jackpot. Sometimes you found nothing. It was the ultimate caveman, FOMO. Then came the accidental breakthrough that changed everything. Around 10,000 years ago, humans started settling down and growing crops like wheat and barley. This was the dawn of agriculture. One day, someone probably left a bowl of grain mash sitting out in the rain. The water mixed with the wild yeast in the air, and the whole thing started bubbling into a nasty, sour soup. Instead of throwing it away, because ancient humans wasted absolutely nothing, someone decided to take a sip of the mysterious liquid. Boom. The first primitive beer was born. And honestly, early beer wasn't just for partying. It was a literal lifesaver. Back then, finding clean drinking water was incredibly difficult. Rivers were full of nasty bacteria that could kill you faster than a cave bear. But because beer goes through a fermentation process, the alcohol naturally kills off the bad bacteria. For thousands of years, drinking low-alcohol beer was actually much safer than drinking plain water. It was thick, full of nutrients, safe to drink, and made everyone in the tribe a lot more social. In fact, some historians argue that humans didn't start farming just to make bread. We started farming because we wanted a steady supply of beer. Imagine that. Human civilization might have been built just because our ancestors wanted to secure the weekend vibes. But what about the food? While some ancestors were busy getting tipsy on accidental beer, others were dealing with a completely different problem: how to make ancient food not taste like absolute cardboard. Let's be real. Before the invention of refrigerators, meat got spoiled incredibly fast. If you killed a mammoth, you couldn't just put the leftovers in a Ziploc bag. Within a few days, that meat would start crawling with bacteria and fungi. Enter the spice glitch. In nature, plants don't want to be eaten. They can't run away from bugs or animals, so they fight back with chemistry. Plants like chili peppers, mustard plants, garlic, and onions developed intense, burning chemicals like capsaicin and sulfur. The whole point of these chemicals was to cause pain to any animal bold enough to take a bite. It was a giant keep out sign. But humans are weird. Some adventurous gatherer thousands of years ago probably found some wild herbs or hot peppers and decided to rub them onto a piece of questionable, slightly old meat before cooking it over the fire. And they noticed two mind-blowing things. First, the meat didn't make them sick. Second, it tasted amazing. You see, those burning chemicals that plants use to scare away animals are actually powerful antimicrobial agents. They act like a natural shield against food poisoning, killing off the bacteria that make meat rot. Our ancestors didn't know anything about microbiology or bacteria, but they noticed a pattern. People who used certain spicy leaves and roots on their food didn't get stomach aches, and their food lasted longer. Over generations, our brains connected that intense, burning sensation with safety and survival. We literally evolved to love the pain because our subconscious knows it keeps the bad bacteria away. It's why tropical countries, where food spoils the fastest due to the heat, have the absolute spiciest cuisines in the world. It's not just a culinary preference. It's an ancient survival strategy that tastes incredible. So when you look at it through the lens of evolution, our modern world starts to make a lot more sense. We aren't doing anything new. When we go out for drinks or try the spiciest wings on the menu, we are just triggering ancient survival mechanisms that were perfected over millions of years of trial and error. We are the descendants of the brave, desperate, and incredibly lucky cavemen who looked at bubbly, spoiled grain water and a burning, painful plant and said, "Yeah, let's see what happens if I eat this." Those tiny, accidental decisions didn't just help them survive the harsh realities of the prehistoric world. They laid the foundation for human culture, agriculture, and community. We literally built modern society on a foundation of happy accidents and iron stomachs. So the next time you enjoy a good meal with friends, give a little toast to your ancient ancestors. They did all the dangerous, experimental, dirty work so that we could enjoy the ultimate flavor cheat codes today. Turn out, nature's biggest glitches became our greatest traditions.